Debbie, I think you've just said a council's job and priority is to deliver statutory services for the residents. I think that goes down to the fundamental problem of officer time and how much time may be spent on the airport and not on the services and delivering services. So you're saying your concern is that governance is going to stop or could potentially cause a problem for the delivery of services, statutory services. I think I would say conversely, the delivery of an airport is having an issue on statutory services because everybody's diverted to that project, which isn't a statutory delivery for a council. Now, I think you need to hold. I think the DSA project and the governance matters need to be considered in the same sort of scheme. Then, if that's the concern.
Debbie.
Well, I will come back. Our business case for the reopening of Doncaster Airport, as you know, are about jobs and growth, and that goes to the heart of what the organisation does. So, I do in my list of, talking about children and adult services and the bin collection and waste collection, I would insert in there, we have got a duty for economic well-being for the Doncaster residents, providing good jobs growth and growth. If we don't undertake that role, other people don't. So we are a catalyst for achieving those for achieving those objectives. The framework between from a national level to a regional level and a local level, we're usually the delivery vehicles for providing that impetus for those good jobs and growth.
Debbie, I don't think anyone would argue that we don't need good jobs and growth. I think the argument would be, and this isn't an airport argument, it's an argument on the governance issues. Nobody would argue we don't need them, but I think my argument would be, is the council best placed to be the driver of that by actually doing the day-to-day of the running? My opinion would be not. That's the private sector with the council behind them, driving them to give them all the support they need. Because if you're saying that this governance issue is taking us away from statutory services and day-to-day delivery, then I can only imagine the airport is too. And that's just my point of view, and obviously you've got yours.
My follow-up, Debbie, was, so if I hear you right, we're talking about we've got 40 gems, and I understand there is a level of logistics that happens behind the scenes to make these things happen, so they don't happen like magic. Cancelled committees. On the EGMs, it is a function of the Constitution that EGMs can be convened. I'm really on the fence with how that would translate into a dysfunctional council, because for me it's exercising a legal constitutional power of full council. I do recognise different political persuasions now, and the council may have settled into a way of working which was very steady state, and that has now changed very slightly. But I would be very concerned if the tipping point for impacts on internal controls and risk is just adding 4 EGMs to the calendar per year. It feels like if that is the case, we're so on the edge as a council, we've got larger concerns than 4 EGMs that I think this committee would need to look at. So that's maybe one observation. The other one is really just around the point about cancelled meetings. Do you have any data points from other peer councils on their rate of cancellations so we can do a compare and contrast? Because I just recognise that meetings do from time to time get cancelled and they get rescheduled. It's a symptom of running a busy governance calendar. So I'm trying to understand whether it's a pattern that this committee should really consider in detail, because it looks like there's this systemic pattern, or is it broadly the norm?
So what I'll probably do is rely on experience of working in a number of authorities. So county councils, other Mets, never experienced anything like this before. So that's, I can't draw off. We could undertake that piece of work in terms of understanding, but what I would say is, in my experience, 41 years, I've never experienced anything like this in terms of the, and I suppose I just sort of, I'm drawing those out as, because sometimes this assessment is, as we've described in the report, it's a synthesis of information we've got. We draw from right down in terms of the organisation, as well as doing that horizon scanning across. And it is intended to provide that, you know, rounded perspective. So it's not just one thing. It's not, and I take your point around the tipping point. I would also say it comes back to our capacity as an organisation, and just the fact that that has brought, and it's the danger that so we've got in here about the DSG, and I'm just going to reference back to that. It's not that you know, the environment for that in terms of the challenge. We hope that never materialises, partly because it's been a national issue. But it's just that in terms, the expectation is that we're reporting on matters that we see as concern, and that's it. So it's a reflection back.
Faye.
Thank you. Just to mention as well, Debbie mentioned external audit, but this is something that will be covered as part of their value for money report, you know, the internal auditor letter. So it's something that as part of our value for money discussions, the governance will also